Good morning, everybody. I'm here for an interview with movie star Clint Eastwood. His style. We'll be talking about his new movie, which is coming out today, and his performance at the RNC. Stay tuned on The Fight for Common Sense.
We are here to nominate a president.
There is a President Obama that only Republicans can save.
And Mitt Romney is a serial killer. He's Mitt the Ripper.
Invest in roads and bridges. If you got a business, you didn't build that.
You know, lifting whole passages from someone else's speeches is not change you can believe in, it's change you can Xerox.
That start is a failure. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
We need to stop spending money we don't have.
So, Mr. Eastwood, how about you begin? No, I don't give a crap about the baseball movie. I mean, when was the last time, no offense, you made an actually interesting movie? Now, I don't want to sound like an American idiot of some sort, but the fact is, nobody gives a crap about your emotions with your daughter or whatever. When you make a real movie, we'll talk. But for now, how about we start with the RNC performance? Now, did improvising with the chair work? I mean, it was a very, very controversial thing. You have to understand that. It got a lot of comedy to it. But on the other hand, many people were happy that it wasn't something scripted, that for once it was improvised at one of these conventions. And for all of those who'd like to know, that this paper doesn't really have anything. It's 3 lines. Just like Clint Eastwood did at his performance at the RNC, I've been improvising most of this stuff. So, for all those to know. Please continue, Mr. Eastwood. Well, see, the thing is that maybe it wasn't such a good thing that it wasn't scripted, because, see, what happened is the Romney camp did not expect this, and what you've done is you've practically gotten rid of any chances that there's going to be anything like this again, something non-scripted. And I mean, for you that doesn't matter, because you're obviously never going to be there again. They're never going to want you again. No offense, but for future situations, no one's going to want to do something like this again. It's received too much critique. It was made into a comedy show. It wasn't taken seriously. No, it wasn't the liberal news media. Come on, you know it wasn't only them. Even from the right, people saw you as a laughingstock. And no offense, I personally think there was a very good performance. There were people on both sides which agree with that. Bill Maher said there was a very good performance. I mean, maybe he wants more like you because the Republicans look stupid afterwards. No, I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm not trying to be critical. But the fact is that there was a lot of comedy that was made off of your performance. For instance, Jon Stewart had that whole line with the invisible Obama. He said, and I quote,
There is a President Obama that only Republicans can save.
Obviously, you didn't expect that. That was not your intention. And from your perspective, I guess I would agree that it looks as if you, personally, it worked out for you. You got your message across. But the fact is that it was so unusual, uncanny, just unexpected, that you kind of went overboard a bit. It wasn't what was expected at a national convention. It wouldn't be expected anywhere. And I mean, the fact is that Jon Stewart, to some extent, was correct. I mean, yes, of course, I understand. The Democrats, for instance, see an invisible Romney, and you're right. There are things that the Democrats say about Romney, including Jon Stewart, that aren't necessarily what Romney has said. There's been that latest thing with the 47%, which has been over and over played, and it wasn't that offensive as it could have been. Romney isn't the most radical or offensive Republican, and yes, they do see an invisible Romney. But unlike you, they don't talk to a chair. See, maybe what's his name is Cory Booker. He was screaming, yes, and there were a lot of angry people there, but they weren't screaming at the chair. Maybe he is schizophrenic, like you. Maybe you did see that Romney next to him, but it wasn't as apparent that he was crazy as it was, for instance, with you. I mean, there are a lot of invisible things, and yes, I understand. And you're right, it was overly publicized, I guess you're saying. But on the other hand, there are a lot of things that Republicans see which just simply aren't true. There's an invisible pledge, for instance. there's an invisible pledge which our friend Grover Norquist made, which for some reason doesn't let any Republican raise taxes on anything. Nothing. Not capital gains, not income, not even the stupidest things. They're not allowed to raise it. That's an invisible pledge. Well, I guess you could argue that it's not economically sane to raise taxes in the middle of a recession, but how about Democrats make their own pledge? How about they make a pledge that they will not start any wars? Never. No matter what happens, no matter if Israel gets nuked, they make this crazy-ass pledge which says never, ever, ever can we vote to start a war. That's about as sane as the pledge that Grover Norquist and the Republicans made. Well, once again, yes, you could argue that Israel depends on our aid, but there's a thing about foreign aid which gets to some extent excessive. We've been giving money to Russia, to China. They don't need our money. They have plenty of money. We've even been giving it to terrorist groups, which then have been using it to attack Israel. The foreign aid that we're giving is absurd, and even our military presence is absurd. On that plane which bombed us on 9/11 were mainly Saudis and Egyptians, the two countries where we were most present in. Well, I understand we were doing business, and obviously, we can't completely eliminate ourselves. We can't forget about half of the world. We can't forget about Israel. But these people don't like our presence. They don't want us to be there, and we respond by sending more troops there. The thing in Libya, we shouldn't send ships there. We should get rid of the foreign aid, and then we should get rid of the embassy. If they don't like us, then we should have an embassy in their country. Yes, that might seem extreme. And there are a lot of libertarians, and I don't agree generally with libertarians. Many of them, like Ron Paul, they go overboard. But the fact is, that's either overboard or spend money waterboard. Or just being bored of all the crap that we're spending money on. Okay, fine. I don't want to continue this discussion because we're running out of time, and obviously you're a very busy guy. Let's get to the actual reason what was I going to say? I'm sorry. Let's get to the actual reason why you were at the RNC. To speak about Mitt Romney. Okay, sir, I understand Iran is a nuclear threat, but it's even not. Unlike you, we don't see invisible things. Iran is not a nuclear threat yet. They will not shoot a nuke at America, and Israel, whose own life is at stake, will know when it's going to be dire, when the crisis is going to be dire. So we're not going to make things up. We're not going to scream at objects or at problems that aren't there, unlike you. Here, let's get what I was going to say. Mitt Romney, let's start from the beginning. He has an MBA, right? Correct. Now, is that master's at being amazing? Yeah, I agree with you. I find that hard to believe. No, I'm not trying to insult Mitt Romney. Obviously, he's a successful person, but here, let's just continue with the MBA. Could that be a master's at bearing arms? No, of course not. That's Paul Ryan, and no, I'm not stereotyping. The fact is, you heard it yourself. Paul Ryan said he likes his guns and he likes his Bibles. That's a master's at bearing arms. And Paul Ryan didn't get masters in things. He has 2 bachelors, a double bachelor, which is fairly successful, but he's not a master's in anything. So what is Mitt Romney a master's in? Business administration, correct, Mr. Eastwood? Now, when I hear business administration, I think investments. I think hedge funds. I think actually running a company that makes a product. Now, what Mitt Romney was doing, and I'm not trying to spread propaganda, venture capital is obviously an important part of our economy. But Mitt Romney's business, which he was a master's in, was buying companies, firing people, taking that money and pumping it into others. It was a very, I guess, from your perspective as a Republican, God-like thing to do, to be God and tell them who keeps a job and who isn't. How did he, as a religious Republican, cope with the problems that he was causing? Oh, you can give me all that crap, you can give me all that skit. It's peace day. I've heard enough crap already. I'll tell you how. Because he doesn't only have a master's in business administration. He has a master's in being an asshole. Sir, you might see it as offensive. And no, I'm not spreading liberal propaganda. I'm an independent, and you could argue with that. You could argue with that with the videos I've put out, but no, I am an independent. And my videos aren't getting that many views. That you're right about. Maybe since you're here, that might boost it a bit. The fact is that, unlike many other business leaders, we see Romney and his friends not with a computer, not with a product, not even with a good idea. We see them with money in their mouths. And that is being an asshole. That is Mitt Romney and his friend and his little canaver there of assholes. How else are you going to call them? Look, the fact is that the Republicans, they are the party for business. The majority of them, yes, they have a business degree or they're CEOs of some sort, but that also means that they cannot feel bad. They cannot possess empathy for those who haven't succeeded like them. They're blinded by the fact that they were able to make it in this world and others weren't. And no, it's not only about hard work. You could be the hardest working person out there and not accomplish anything. It is to some extent chance. It is to some extent connections. How can you not see that? What? But where are you going? Wait, stop. Oh, what? Wow. Clint Eastwood is fairly short-tempered. There he goes. Now, I have to talk to invisible chairs. Well, I'm not Clint Eastwood, so I won't be talking to invisible things. And probably whoever's watching this, they don't exist, so maybe I am talking to invisible things. But the fact is that Clint Eastwood's performance did give us an insight into the Republican state of mind and only embarrassed the Republican Party more. I mean, yeah, he took a very giant risk, and it didn't necessarily pan out, but that is what our economy is about. People in the United States should be encouraged to take risks in the business sector, and if they fail, there should be a net that will save them. And the problem is that many Republicans, like Clint Eastwood, don't see that. The Democrats aren't the angelic party either, and I'm not necessarily endorsing anybody, but I want you to keep that in mind when the elections come. And as for the item of the day, today's thing of mention, I guess, are glasses. Because obviously, some Republicans need them. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
The world sees it rise when I gave the